I like to think that I'm able to pick up good habits from people that I respect and also stay very true to who I am.
ADHD reWired, episode 413. This is the podcast for those of us with really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. I'm Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by training and a coach by design. I'm your host, and I have ADHD. ADHD reWired is more than just a podcast. We are a community. We are wired for connection, and you are not alone. Go to ADHDrewired.com to learn how you can join us in our free and secret Facebook group. Get additional resources for every episode, including links to any resources we mention on today's show. You can support us on Patreon, sign up for our email newsletter. You can request podcast postcards to distribute to your clients and support groups. Learn all about our award-winning coaching and accountability groups. You can co-work with us in our Adult Study Hall virtual membership community. You can do all of these things by going to our website at ADHDrewired.com. We know that starting is the hardest part, so let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD reWired. We have it returning to the podcast again. My friend and coach, HR specialist or recovering HR specialist, and proud to now be able to say ADHD reWired coach, Kat Hoyer.
Hello.
How is it going?
You want the real answer
Yes, let's start there.
I'm very happy to be here and talking about what we're about to talk about. But yeah, I just got stuck in my driveway and had to have the city get me out. But other than that, really good.
You know, if you didn't show me picture proof, I would have wondered if you were just running late and looking for a really good excuse.
Yeah, nope. I don't do that. I learned better. I learned it. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, so I wanted to have you on again. Because just, you know, we have been sort of talking and really playing with the idea of you coming in and doing some more stuff with us for quite some time. Because you've been you were an alumni of, I think it was ArC 9 or 8?
9.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was back in like 2016, maybe?
15, I believe. Yep.
And I've always just had a really good rapport with you, and I've always appreciated your perspective on things, and have kind of been my my sort of unofficial or official HR person that is like when I have questions about stuff. So what I really want to get into, Kat, is I want people to get to know you, because you are going to be leading one of our coaching groups this season in the spring, and people want to work with those that they know, like, and trust. And so It is my hope is that this conversation will allow those who are thinking about potentially joining one of our groups to hop on board potentially with you. Because, you know, I think you're definitely knowable. You're very likable, and I trust you a lot. But that's me.
Right. We have to get other people to feel this, not get them to, but, you know, if people feel the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is Kat Hoyer?
Oh my goodness. Well, I am a mom. I have a 16-year-old son. I have a very good co-parenting relationship with his dad. It hasn't always been that way, but we have worked really hard for it to be that way. So we've got a great co-parenting relationship. And I'm originally from Indiana, but I've lived in Michigan for a while. And now I live in Ohio. I live in the Akron area. And so that means I'm, you know, if somebody yells OH, I'm going to yell IO. I have to do it. I get my Buckeye card taken away and get kicked out of the state. So yeah, let's see. I was diagnosed with, you know, that I was diagnosed officially when I was 39. So that was last year. No, I'm just kidding. That was like 10 years ago. And I had a very different reaction than most people. Actually, we talked about it, I think, on like episode 176-ish, something like that. Everything was backwards for me. Like I was, the reason I started looking into it, most people my age, the reason they look into it is because of their kids. Mm-hmm. I looked into it because I was in a therapy session and I was telling someone about my dad, or I was telling the therapist about my dad and how like my dad just never sits down. And so I had this sort of, how do I say this? I had guilt around resting. So that was something we were kind of working through. And when I explained to her how my dad was, she said, well, there's no way he could be like that unless, maybe he has ADHD or something. So I was like, that's a kid thing. So I started looking it up, and then I realized I fit into all these categories, and, so that was how I started down that journey. And then the other side that I think was different than most people I hear is that instead of feeling relieved and like, oh, now I have an explanation, I cried. And it was more of like, it was hard for me because I knew it was something that I was going to have to work on forever. It wasn't going to be something that I was able to just fix at some point. So I struggled with that for a while, and it affected, as you mentioned, I was in HR, my dream job. But now I call myself a recovering HR manager. But I realized then how much it was affecting my work. It affected my marriage. At the time I was officially diagnosed, I was in the middle of the divorce, and a lot of the issues that I was having in my marriage manifested because of ADHD. And, that was just, there were so many different things that, yes, it explained a lot, but it was also just really hard to hear that it was something I'd have to, at the time I thought, struggle with forever. Now I look at that a little bit differently. But so that's kind of that part in a nutshell. And then I started with ADHD reWired, the coaching. I was already doing my own coaching, career coaching, and then moved into kind of life coaching type work, but really working with companies and things like that. But
how did you make that transition?
From which into?
From HR to doing more, I understand HR to career coaching, but then the more life coaching.
With the HR to career coaching, that was really because in that period of time, I had lost 3 jobs in 3 years. Some of it was, again, ADHD related, the third job. And then also, I was on the other side of the divorce, but the divorce took a year, and it was a year and a half actually. And it was just not a good time. So I thought, I can't work in corporate America was what I thought. So I'm going to work for myself, do the career coaching. And actually, I really enjoy it. I do some things with the community, with the alumni and the adult study hall community with career coaching still. Gosh, how did that happen? The transition was because during that time, during those losing 3 jobs, going through the divorce, I was in what I call a functional depression. At one point, I was actually suicidal. And that's when I reached out for therapy, started going through therapy. And I knew as I was going through it that somehow I was going to be using that to help other people. So as I was coming out of it, I paid attention to how I came out of it and everything. Here's a little tidbit when you ask who Kat is. Kat is somebody who does acronyms for just about everything.
Everything. Oh my God, everything.
I have so many acronyms. So, I realized like kind of what I was using was cognitive behavioral therapy to really get myself in a better place. And I created something called STEER, which is an acronym for situation, thought, emotion, execution, and result. And I started teaching people that. That was how I went into life coaching, started teaching people that. And then some of the people that I taught wanted to also teach other people. So that turned into a coaching program. And there are now 9 STEER certified coaches across the country. One person
awesome.
is English is her second language. So she was able to translate it to Spanish. So cool. So that's kind of how it happened.
And you've done a lot of stuff too in diversity and talking about diversity in the workplace and
right. So diversity, equity, inclusion, and now accessibility is a part of that. I'm still really involved in the HR community. One of the things, I talk about neurodiversity. I did a talk on that with Disrupt HR, which was a lot of fun. And
that's like one of the big HR conferences, right?
Yeah. Well, Disrupt HR is actually a little bit smaller. They're They're held in different cities. So it's kind of like TED Talks on speed. They're very ADHD friendly because you have to do 20 slides you have 15 seconds per slide.
Oh, wow.
And, so I have to memorize the speeches. And yeah, I mean, I love them because they're little snippets, and I've done, I think 6 or 7 of them now. Actually, today I'll be re-signing the rights to I don't know if I've told you this. I'll have
you were starting to tell me when we met in Chicago last weekend.
Yeah. So in Fort Wayne, Silk will, which is my company, Serial Life Coaching, will host the one in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So basically, Disrupt HR is meant to really make people think differently. It's not uncommon to hear a few F-bombs in the speeches. It's usually pretty controversial. There's not a lot of, you shouldn't bring kids to Disrupt. Then there's usually some, adult beverages, and it's held in like funky places, usually like warehouse/bar kind of places and things like that.
Was it at this thing last year or whenever the last one before COVID was, that you were talking about neurodiversity and there were a lot of people who didn't get it?
Yes, that was just before COVID. That was in Detroit. So yeah, if you Google my name and neurodiversity, the speech for that will come up. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people just didn't know what it was, but there were a lot of people afterward that came up too and said, thank you. I struggle with these things, or, I have these issues. So what I like about that though, is that I've seen now more and more companies embracing it and understanding what it is. It's a little tricky right now to talk about you have to be careful what rooms you're talking about neurodiversity in, because you don't want to throw it in the middle of when people are having talks about, the Black experience in America and things like that. You just want to make sure that it's being talked about at the right time in the right way and not hijacking anyone else's agenda. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if I shared this with you. Maybe I did. After you were on, not when we were doing the stuff around Adult Study Hall, but just before that, when we were talking about, I think, disclosure in the workplace.
Yes.
And there was, I happened to get, I was tagged in a conversation that was in another ADHD Facebook group. The conversation was about that episode. And there is someone making a comment how, I think this person actually reached out to me personally and was horrified that we were saying that we shouldn't disclose. And so I got curious with them, and I was asking questions, and here was what I thought was actually surprisingly, I don't say interesting. Maybe we really are turning this ship a bit.
Yes.
That lots of people were chiming in, sharing positive experiences of self-disclosure in the workplace. And I was like, wow.
Yes.
I was really surprised by that.
It is shifting. I still don't want to say unequivocally disclose in the workplace. I think you have to be careful. I think you have to know who you're disclosing to. Actually, someone within the community had disclosed to his boss, and it just so happened that, he knew that her husband has ADHD, and then they're the VP that they were working with to kind of help him through some things that he was having some difficulties on. That person's child had ADHD. So it is becoming more and more acceptable to talk about it. But again, we have to remember that it's an explanation, not an excuse. Mm-hmm. And we have to make sure that we're able to meet the job requirements. Obviously we can do some types of accommodations around it, but that's really one of the things that we talk about in CAASH is this a good fit for you? But we are. One of the things I said in my Disrupt HR talk at the end, I said, for those of us that are part of this, you're not broken, you're wired differently, and we are moving the needle forward. I really do think that the needle is moving forward quicker than I thought that it was going to. And I think that is just kind of, COVID has brought to light a lot of mental health, the neurodiversity, all those different types of things. So I think it's been helpful.
Well, as we are moving forward, hopefully on the front of acceptance and inclusion, we are also moving forward on time with this podcast. So we were going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Support for ADHD Rewired comes from our coaching community, which includes our award-winning coaching and accountability groups and our alumni membership community, where our coaching group graduates get ongoing support. The kickoff event for this spring's coaching season is just around the corner. We're kicking it off on Thursday, February 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And we are asking that all pre-registration items be submitted no later than 5 p.m. Central on Wednesday, February 2nd. And hey, if you are new to ADHD Rewired, welcome. We are more than just a podcast. We are a community. And this is what some of our recent alumni of our coaching community said about their experience being a part of this group.
Before this group, I doubted my ability to grow.
I came to the group out of hope, really struggling with who I was and what I wanted to do and feeling stuck.
I think I was afraid at first. Especially with the opening, I was like, oh no, this sounds really scary. If I mess up, they're going to kick me out.
I joined group because I think I'm one of the few people here that was diagnosed as a child, and I knew how to handle it as a kid, but I never matured and figured out how to handle ADHD as an adult and what it means to be an adult with ADHD.
What I've accomplished in 10 weeks, I didn't do it alone. I did it with all of you. I did it with my A team. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it is the results so far. For me, I've been really positive in the sense that I do believe that I can live without fear.
You realize that trying to find better tools isn't really just the only solution. It's finding a community, finding people, and finding support, and learning how to ask for help and learning how to give help better. I think that really helps make a difference.
The thing that I learned was I have a place in this world. I found a real home that I don't ever have to really leave. I just fully believe in the power of peer support. I think in order to heal from all the internalized shame and ableism and the trauma from growing up and not having known your ADHD or really understood it, being around other people who are going through the same thing and feeling, and I love you all, so why can't I love myself?
I felt such a connection with every single one of you and your stories, and I felt a little piece of myself and everything that you guys said. And it was at that moment, if I had any doubts before that moment, that there was a deep connection there and how much we care for and support each other.
They just taught me to be compassionate with myself and to say, hey, this is a process.
Everyone in the group who's talked about their issue, we all then become invested in wanting to see them grow and by proxy wanting to see ourselves grow.
I can continue to learn and relearn the techniques that have been shared with me here and also continue to receive the support that I've gotten here, which I also didn't know I needed, but I'm so grateful for.
I came in expecting to get a tool belt and then I take those tools and go with me, but I feel like more of a different person who has tools that I can use. So thank you, all of you, for such a wonderful experience. I had a great time with you all.
My parting wish is that you would each see the incredible beauty within you, and that no matter what others say, that you would find the power in your ADHD, because it does come with power that others don't get to have.
I don't know if there are directions to a heart, but from the bottom of it, I really appreciate everyone. So thanks, everyone.
Join me or coaches Moira Mabin, Roxy Martin, or Kat Hoyer for our 28th season of coaching groups. If you have a strong preference to join my section, I want to encourage you to join us for our kickoff event, because this season is the first time since 2014 that I will be leading only one group, so space is limited. Go to the website, go to coachingrewired.com, add your name to our interest list, confirm your email. Then you'll get to watch a 35-minute presentation. It is a pre-recorded presentation. It has all the information and details about the group that you will need to know, so you can decide if this group is right for you and if this is the right time. Then complete the quiz that goes along with the video. Then you'll send us a 45-second video that shares with us a little bit about you. All of these details will be in the email that you'll get once you add your name to the interest list over at coachingrewired.com. So all you have to remember is to go to coachingrewired.com. Also, for our friends from Australia and New Zealand, we have a group tailored for your time zone this season. Coach Kat Hoyer will be offering her section Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Time. And I had to Google that because I didn't know the time zones in Australia and in that area. But we will be announcing a registration event that will work for you soon, because we know our kickoff event is at 2 a.m. your time zone. So we'll be announcing another event soon that will work better for your schedule. The schedule of all of our sessions is posted at coachingrewired.com. Registration is by invitation only, so get your name on the list by going to coachingrewired.com. Come grow with us, but don't wait, because we fill up every single season. That's coachingrewired.com. All right, we are back. So, I have to tell you something, Kat.
Okay.
Your Steer Your Life Coaching, you pronounced it as, in your acronym, how you said Silk?
I said Silk, SYLC. Yeah.
So I never realized that was the same thing. Every time I saw it, I was like, I was probably just like an acronym for someone's name or something. Like I just never like thought that deeply about it. And I was like, oh, that is Steer Your Life Coaching.
Yeah. Cause so Steer Your Life Coaching is trademarked. And then when I started doing some stuff around HR consulting, it became Silk Consulting.
Got it. Okay. One of the things that I've enjoyed about you is that you have this really nice balance of compassion and understanding blended with a beautiful sort of assortment of you don't take no bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you can be very direct when you need to. And I've never found you to be reserved about giving constructive feedback, even when it's hard to hear. And I think that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think honestly, it comes from my HR background, because I like people. I really, really like people. And well, that's a relief considering the work you're in. Right. But one of the things that I think I realized very quickly in my HR career is that I'm not doing anyone any favors if I sugarcoat things. So, I worked for a fast growth company and we were interviewing people for promotions pretty regularly. And sometimes they weren't ready. And I needed to give them feedback on what they could do to get ready for the position. And if I didn't tell them very directly and give them some action plans and things like that, then they weren't going to move ahead. So, it's not as uncomfortable for me to be direct. And I've always thought everyone's entitled to my opinion. So, so that's not hard for me either. But, in that way, and I do try to be diplomatic.
They say that opinions are like assholes.
Yep.
And everybody's got one.
Yep.
And some people's just stink more than others.
Right. So, yeah, I think I try to be diplomatic, because I don't want people to shut down. But I feel like it's helpful for everyone to be direct. So, yeah. So,
all right. I've been kind of poking at you for a couple of years now about coaching with us. How come you recently changed your answer?
Oh, there are a few different things. Like many people, I think, going through this whole thing with, the shutdown and just kind of, what do we call it? The existential crisis or whatever. It's not really a crisis. So I was talking to, or we'll just say interviewing a potential coach. And one of the things that came up was that I could potentially be spreading myself too thin in my business because of the things that I was doing with ADHD reWired. I found myself really digging my heels in and saying, no way will I give this up, because it brings me so much joy. I love the community. So you and I talked about it a little bit. You posed the question to me, what do you want to do? So I really started.
Well, I think the first thing I asked you was, is she right? Right.
You did. Yes, you did. You said, is she right? And that pissed me off. No, it didn't. No. No, I was like, I don't know. Maybe she is. Like, I don't want to think about it, but maybe it isn't right for me to work for myself. So, I started going through that, again, like weighing all those different things. But one of the things I thought about is, what has brought me joy over in the last year and a half. And, I'm doing my work and I'm going in and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. But it was doing the stuff within the community that I could see. When I work with companies, I can't always see the difference.
You don't get that sweet reward of getting to see the impact. Yes. Oh man, that'd be hard.
Yeah. So I do, I went back recently and did what we called a tune-up with a company that I had worked with for a year, and a lot of them were doing really well. And I got to see how they had implemented some of the strategies that we teach, which was nice, but I hadn't seen them in almost a year. So and the thing with working, so that's another thing we didn't talk about, is that I think I've done, I don't hold the record, but I have admined for a lot of the coaching groups. So not only did I go through
and just in case too, because I always think it's important to always consider the person who is tuning into this podcast for the very first time.
Yes.
That there was an acronym we said earlier, we're talking about ArC and then CAASH. And CAASH, if you didn't hear the episode, that was, a couple of weeks ago. CAASH stands for Career Accelerator Adult Study Hall. And Kat leads that. And then when she's talking about being an admin, she's referring to, and we spell admin with 2 Ds, ADDMIN. And that's the role of a peer mentor, someone who's been through the coaching program before and has showed strong leadership skills. And so that's the role of the admin. So you've been an admin. Did we figure out how many times exactly?
I think maybe 6 times. Did we say? I don't know. I feel like I might 12 times. I think I should just double it every time I say it. No, I think it's been 5 or 6 times. And I love that. I love going through that. And then, yeah, that's really what it was. I was like, that's where I'm feeling the most joy. And I know there is a need in a certain time, help me out here.
So the different time zones and stuff?
Yeah. So I was like, okay.
So yesterday, I think my brain almost broke. So I was trying to update my website, and I always have that little chart on the website that has the section, and then I break it down into time zone from Pacific to Eastern time, because we have ADHD and it's so easy to mess that up. And so I just to sort of scaffold that for people who come to the website. And then I'm like, okay, how do I use this format of the chart and then also include something that is a great time, but the time is for people who are in Australia and New Zealand. And what is tricky because they're in the future.
Right.
So trying to figure that out. And I'm still not 100% sure I did it right. I might have gone the opposite way. So I have to double check that and have somebody else also look at it, because that's really important when I'm doing anything with dates and calendars. Because when I'm publishing stuff like that, I mess that up. It's one of my favorite mistakes to make, of the right day but wrong date. Or it's unbelievable how often I make that mistake. So my strategy, I gotta have somebody else double and triple check that.
Yep.
Because it's what we want is, we used to have people from Australia and from Europe all the time. But one of the things we found was that for the accountability teams, while it's workable, it's harder.
Mm-hmm. It is.
A lot of people who are some of our international alumni have said that. They're yeah, it was doable, but it was harder.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought is, if you're investing, this much time and money into a program like this, let's not make it doable. Let's make it optimal.
Right.
So, what we're doing is we're going to experiment and have you leading the Australian, New Zealand. What do you call someone from New Zealand? A New Zealander?
I'll Google it later.
All the people who were going to sign up from New Zealand just be nope, never mind. He doesn't know anything about us. No, but so it's at I think 9 a.m. Eastern Australian time. Oh my gosh, I'm pretending that I know what the hell I'm talking about right now. But it's a good time for people who are in Australia. It is late afternoon for people who are in the US. And so what I was thinking that we would do is, let's first give sort of priority to people overseas in Australia and New Zealand, and possibly have maybe one team of 4 in the US if it needs to be that way. But I would definitely want to keep teams in, nearby time zones, because I just think I want to make it as there's already so many challenges that we have to deal with.
Right.
Let's not have a 8 to 12 or 18 hour time difference be one of those things. Juliet, who admin for us before and a couple of times, and she's from Australia. And I don't remember exactly how it works with the time zone changes, like for daylight savings. So when she first started in the group, I think she was getting up at 5 a.m. And then they go through 2 different time zone changes. So then it was 4, then it was 3 a.m. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And, while it's humbling to see the people willing to do that, I want to really create an environment that sets people up for success right out of the gate.
Right. Yeah. And I was part of one of the groups who had quite a few individuals from, I think that one was like the European group. And yeah, it was challenging. And yeah, so this works out really well. The time for me, and I talked to my son. That was the other thing before I called you. I talked to him and said, hey, I'm going to be, doing this couple nights. So it could mean that I can't come to some of your games, or I might come late or whatever. And like, how do you feel about that? And he knows, he knows how involved I am in the community and how much I enjoy the community. So he was very supportive as well. So we are a team, and I always want to make sure that he feels like he has some input on that as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. By the way, how did he do in his volleyball tournament?
Did really well. They came in the way he described it was the middle of the middle. So I don't know what that means. There were 90 teams. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So they won their first game on the playoffs and lost the second, but we had just an amazing time. So yeah, Eric and I got to meet in person for the first time.
That was really exciting.
It was awesome.
That was really fun. And we found this little bar on the 22nd floor of the building where your hotel was, and it was not busy at all, which was amazing. And we just found this little corner couch to just chat in, and
everything was perfect. You found free parking.
Free parking, where the paid parking around there was $40, and I found free street parking. I was like, and I thought for sure that I misread a sign and I would get towed or something, because that has happened. Well, not towed, but tickets, because I misread signs.
Yeah. Yeah, it was everything was perfect except for my watered down drinks, but
overpriced watered down drinks. What are you most excited about with coaching?
I'm most excited about the last group that the last group,
last day, you mean?
The last day of group. Yeah, that's the one that everything kind of leads up to that. So I'm most excited because you can see the changes, and going through coaching is not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of self-discovery. Not that I'm not looking forward to it, but I know that it's hard for some people to get through that. And I'm definitely a very empath. I feel other people's stuff, and I'll probably cry and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really excited to see people's results, and knowing that I had something to do with it is just I am already, my cockles are warm.
You're what? Can you say that on a podcast?
Make sure this is rated E. What is it? What is that? Don't they say it warms the cockles of my heart or something? What are cockles?
I have never heard that before.
You've never heard it warms the cockles of my heart?
I don't know the word cockles.
Heart cockles?
What?
Are you gonna Google it?
What does cockles mean?
Cockle means an edible burrowing bivalve mollusk with a strong ribbed shell.
Okay.
Do you want to hear the next one?
I don't even know half the words in that definition. A bivalve mollusk? What is that? It's a small...
I found this on the web.
Okay, I'm done talking to you. Okay. Okay, so, it's kind of cool hearing you say how much you're looking forward to that last session, and how one of the things that you like of being in the community is that you really get to see people's growth. Mm-hmm. And it is one of the things that I love about this work so much. And it was just nice to sort of hear that. It gave me a moment of pausing to have that to really feel gratitude about wow, like that is really a cool thing that we get to do, to see people really grow. And because of our alumni community, there are many people who will stay around for years for ongoing support and for the community. And just to see where some of our members are now it's almost like if you would have told me, I would have been like, really? Like, cool. I hope you're right. Right. But being able to see it so frequently it is really cool.
It is. It's so, and again, it's work and they're putting the work in, but there's so much support and watching the relationships, what it reminds me of is when I was in HR and I would hire, I brought people into work, I hired them, and then I would see their relationships and their friendships blossom. And there's like one that I remember seeing, they became best friends, and one became like the godmother of the she had a baby and all that. And I'm like, I had a little something to do with that, because I hired them, and, but to see people's friendships and all of that stuff and people supporting each other. And it's just, I love it. I love it so much. And I think knowing that we're going to be focusing on the Australian group and New Zealand, and that's exciting to me because I do know that there was a little frustration around some people who tried to, who were a part of it and maybe didn't have as many people to work with, because they're getting in the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff. So
that's like a 16 or 18 hour difference or something like that.
Yeah. It's, and I've got, we talked a little bit about the meds. I'm probably going to take because it'll be late for me. And I have to be very mindful of the fact that I either need to take a little booster, and I want to make sure that it's not so much that I can't get the sleep that I need. So that's the part that I'll be reporting back probably to you on how I'm doing with it, because that's part of managing ADHD. So,
because I used to do a later afternoon group. I think that was like a 3:30 or 4 o'clock group. And one of the things that I learned from that is that a lot of people's meds are wearing off around that time. And the temperaments are a little bit different in a group where, there's a bunch of people's meds who are wearing off around that time. And so one of the things I had said to you, it's like, we were talking about the time that you wanted to do it. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be a tough time for people in the US, because you're going to be working with a bunch of like unmedicated ADHDers. And, we were talking about like the idea of we want to help people, we want to set them up for success. I think being in a group in the evening, even if it works for your calendar, it might not actually work for you. If you really if you do much better on medication, if you can't be medicated because it's too late in the evening, I would say don't do it. It would be like me going to a continuing education course, like unmedicated. Like, it's going to be a waste of time and money for me, because I'm going to tune out in 2 seconds, even though like I want to be there presently, but I know myself.
Well, and I think I saw that when I was adminning for the really early morning one. I think some people were signing up because they were like, ooh, I want to start at 6 a.m. I want to be that, so you want to
fantasized version of self.
Yes. So you definitely want to look at who you are now and not who you want to be to do group. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. And I think too, I want to kind of pull back a little bit from just ADHD reWired, but for anyone who's thinking about doing anything that's going to advance your own personal growth, be realistic with yourself, right? Like, doing personal growth work is amazing and it's important, and how lucky are we that we can kind of do work in the top of Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like, I mean, it's amazing. But I think what happens is sometimes people want this thing so badly that they sort of like convince themselves that it'll work. And I want to encourage people to not do that, right? To really go, what would work best for you? Like, I know for me, like, there's parts that would be great if I could do a group at 9 or 10 in the morning. That's not going to be great for me. Right? Because then I have to skip part of my workout. And like, I know that part of managing my own ADHD, it's the whole idea of bending the world to you. It's one of the things we talk about is success when you have ADHD really does require your ability to bend the world to you to sort of the maximum effect. Mm-hmm. Right? And
you have to be like that whole self-awareness piece that I think sometimes early in our journey, we may not have. So if people are kind of new in their diagnosis, it's easy to to put on the rose-colored glasses. And I always think about, I think it was a mastermind, and she was talking about how when she like plans her week or whatever, she's like, whoever planned my week is not this, it's not the same person who actually does the work. Like, it's two different people. I always think about that I want to make sure that if I am planning something, it's going to be the same version of me that is going to carry it out.
All right, let's do this. Let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, I want you to share with us what you think makes you a good coach. This is your job interview for all of our listeners.
Great. That's awesome.
Tables are turning. So we will be right back. Get more done with the virtual co-working community built for adults with ADHD by adults with ADHD by going now to adultstudyhall.com. From our weekly guided and facilitated sessions to our 24/7 drop-in room, there are plenty of ways you can optimize your productivity to get more done using real-time accountability. It's only $19.99 a month, and it's free to try for the first week. And you can cancel your membership anytime. You get our guided sessions known as ArC Plus. We have a session for writing. We have 2 for decluttering and cleaning. We have a session for job searches led by Coach Kat Hoyer, who is also an HR specialist. A session for your most dreaded tasks called Task Busters. We have sessions for working out, and we're going to be adding a money session to do all of those money-related tasks. We'll have more information about that one coming up soon. And once a month, I host a Pomodoro dance party. This month's Pomodoro dance party is on Thursday, January 27th. That's this Thursday. It's at 1:30 p.m. Central until 3:45 p.m. Central. During this Pomodoro dance party, we will have, instead of a 25-minute work block, we will be doing 2 50-minute work blocks with 10-minute dance breaks in between. Dancing is required, and you are able to, but dance skills are not. If you want to join the virtual co-working community built just for us, you're invited. Head on over now to adultstudyhall.com to learn more about our ArC Plus sessions, our 24/7 drop-in room, and to stay up to date for any other upcoming sessions. The doors are open at adultstudyhall.com. Come work with us at adultstudyhall.com. Support for this podcast comes from our patrons. If you want to support the show because you love the podcast and the work that we are doing, I invite you to join our Patreon community over at ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. I want to thank our newest patrons, Autumn H., Christine N., Becky H., and Lindsay H. And thanks to Christine and Becky, who took advantage of the yearly membership discount. Thank you to all of our patrons for becoming patrons. Welcome to all of you, and thank you again for your support. You can become a patron starting at any amount, with perks starting at just $5 a month, where you can get ad-free episodes of this show. Then at $25 a month, you can get a taste of group coaching by joining me for our patron-only monthly coaching call. Our next monthly coaching call is today. If you are listening to this before 3 p.m. Central on Tuesday, January 25th. Whether it's because of the ad-free episodes, our monthly coaching calls, or you simply want to support this podcast because you believe in the work that we are doing, your support is very much appreciated. Thanks to all our patrons, old and new, for your support. And if you're considering supporting the show, I invite you to join us over at ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. Support can start at any amount, with perks starting at just $5 a month. And really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Join our Patreon community and find all the perks by going to ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. That's ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. And thanks. All right, we are back. So, Kat, you have been on one side of the table. How many people do you think you've interviewed for jobs?
Thousands,
thousands, okay.
For sure, thousands. I've interviewed thousands.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I find doing job interviews and really knowing what are the right questions to ask is tricky.
It is.
And I love that you love it. And I love picking your brain about this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am, I suddenly feel like I am like the amateur about to like play ball with the big leaguer. Okay. So, Kat, what values do you bring to coaching?
You mentioned earlier that I think you said compassionate. I know that I am very compassionate, but I'm also someone who is direct. So I think that my communication style is helpful with that. I think the fact that I've lived through all of this and been part of the community, I think that is another thing. So here's one of the things I always tell people when they are being interviewed, to say, oh gosh, I'm a little nervous, because then it gives you some grace, and I'm like, oh, it is hard being on the other side of the table. What makes me, I think, gosh, dang, this is hard. I am, doggone it, people like me. Oh, I don't know. I think, you know what? I think we'll have a lot of fun. We'll get a lot of work done. There will be like blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know about the blood part, but sweat and tears for sure. I'm somebody who likes to be in the trenches with people too. But I also know when to back off and let people do their own thing. And to be honest, I really have, being an admin with you, I've studied how you do things as well. And I've been able to, without losing myself, take some of the best of the things that I like about you. I was with Moira, I've been with other admins, other coaches, and things like that. So I like to think that I'm able to pick up good habits from people that I respect and also stay very true to who I am.
What do you think will be your greatest opportunities for growth?
Oh, my greatest opportunities for growth is to not jump in and try to fix things for people. That's the one that I found myself very early on when I was adminning to be like, I want to tell people like, but wait, in about 3 weeks, here's what's going to happen. And here, and it's like, nope, got to sit back and let them do that part of the journey. There's a little saying of don't block a blessing. And I have changed that for my own coaching to don't block a lesson.
Oh, I like that. It's interesting because I always tell people, when we talk about what coaching is, it's one of the first conversations we have on the first day of group, because I want to make sure that everyone's, that we're all on the same page about what we're about to do. It's like, yes, they went through all the registration stuff. They watched the video. It's like, but that was like, weeks ago. And, I don't expect anyone to remember any of those things. And I always tell people like, one of my philosophies of coaching is that a really masterful coach doesn't need to know anything about the content they're coaching around.
Right.
Because it's all about asking good questions and pulling things out of people and creating that safe space for experimentation and reflection. And kind of what you were saying is this idea of, yes, like there's this strategy or this thing that you think would be like, you see it and you're like, this would be so helpful. But I think if I give them time, they're going to make this discovery. And to take that away from someone is truly taking away one of the greatest gifts of a coaching experience.
Yes.
And that's something that I've had to work on too myself. And the thing that has made it easier for me is 750 people who have been in my program, and then seeing like, oh, just give it time, be patient with it. Right. And by doing that, it's like, because often people think they just want the answers given to them, not realizing that's actually not helpful.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited to watch just the magic happen. And it's incredible to watch. And now to be on the other side of it. And I already have my admin person. So that.
All right. Oh, that's cool. All right. So let's get to know you on a little bit of a more personal level. All right. Favorite author or book?
Ooh, Jodi Picoult, Sounds of a Humpback Whale. It's a fiction. Yeah. She's written a lot of fiction. Actually, I'm listening to one of her books right now, but My Sister's Keeper, they made it into a movie, and it was where the girl sued her parents to be emancipated for rights to her body, because they basically had her to harvest her organs for her older sibling. But she writes a lot of her books are very timely with, things that are going on in the world. But that one was one that it just so happened that I was on one of my favorite vacations, which was Cape Cod. The book also was taking place where I was. So it was kind of it was a good time in my life,
cool.
I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. What about what is your favorite band or favorite concert you've ever been to?
Oh, this one's hard for me too, because my ex-husband was in the music industry. So I went to a lot of I got to go backstage a lot and got to hang out with some of the people. So I think mine is my favorite performer is Pink. I love her.
Okay.
Yeah. And favorite concert I've ever been to was Cyndi Lauper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the coolest famous person that you ever met?
Cyndi Lauper.
Who's someone you would love to meet?
Oprah. I kind of met her, but not really. We were on the Oprah cruise and she picked my mom's question. And she yelled out into the audience, Deborah Hoyer from Indiana, where are you? And I'm like, it's my mom. That's my mom. So she read her question and answered it. And yeah, but I'd love to meet her. She would be the person that I'd have lunch with.
Do you have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal for this year?
This year, I have a word and it is enough. So no, I do not have a BHAG. I am really working on understanding that sometimes it's okay to be where you are and not be pushing myself for more and bigger and better. And sometimes enough is where I need to live.
That might be a good place to stop. Kat, is there anything else that you would like to share with listeners?
I'm just excited to be on this journey and, I don't know, get to know new people and watch them grow.
So we will announce, because our registration kickoff event is coming up on February 3rd. Unfortunately, because it's at 11 a.m. Central, that means 2 a.m. in Australia. So next week, we will probably have an announcement of what time the Australian and New Zealand. I have to Google that now because I just want people to know that I've learned what you call somebody from Australia. Or here, I'll ask Siri. What do you call someone from New Zealand?
Here's what I found.
A New Zealander. I think that's what I thought, but I was like, no, could it really be that easy?
Yeah, you did say that.
I was making it up. And I was like, well, I was. I guess I got lucky. I'm being right. Okay, so if you're a New Zealander or an Australian, now watch, it's actually Australianer. I don't think it is. We'll have those times announced. I mean, I guess you can come to a 2 a.m. session, but I don't expect that at all because that's but more power to you if that works for you. Kat, thank you so much. I am so excited to have you on the team. And we'll get to see you and all of our overseas folks at an upcoming registration event.
Yay.
So thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
This is ArC Tivers. Thank you for listening and congratulations for making it to the end. ADHD reWired is more than just a podcast. We are a community focused on learning, growing, and connection. The website is ADHDrewired.com. You can find time-stamped summaries and additional resources for each episode. Apply to join our free and secret Facebook community. Learn more about our award-winning intensive online video-based coaching and accountability groups. Join the Adult Study Hall virtual co-working membership community. Find all the other podcasts on the ADHD Rewired podcast network. Sign up for my email newsletter to get exclusive content that you won't hear anywhere else. And use the search tool to find episodes on specific topics. You can do all of this at ADHDrewired.com. While you're there, click on the Patreon button. If you are a regular listener, consider making a monthly contribution by becoming a patron. If you are able to financially support my work, it would mean a lot. This show is free to you, the listener, but it's not free to produce. Plus, patrons get cool perks like ad-free episodes and access to recordings of coaching calls, and $25 a month patrons can join me once a month for a group coaching call. You can follow me on Twitter at ArC Tivers. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/ADHD rewired. If you're a coach, therapist, or related professional, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Eric Tivers. Subscribe to ADHD Rewired on YouTube to see selective interviews and other videos I've made. Podcasts change lives. You can make a difference in someone's life by spreading the word about this podcast. Mention it in your online communities on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, or wherever you hang out online. And be sure to share it with your friends, family, your therapists, your coaches, doctors, siblings, parents. And if you, your coach, therapist, doctor, or ADHD support group leader would like a pack of podcast postcards to hand out, you can request those at the website, ADHDrewired.com. If you are a member of CHAD, ADA, or any other ADHD support group, please be sure to tell them about this show and all the shows on the ADHD Rewired Podcast Network. You can even show them how to download it on their phone. And if you really loved this particular episode, please hit share on your podcast player. I'm only one person, and I do count on you to help spread this message. One of the biggest things that you can do to support this podcast and help other people discover it is to leave an honest rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other app that supports reviews. And don't forget to hit subscribe so new episodes are automatically pushed to your favorite podcast app. Looking for more ways to listen and learn? Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at Audible by going to audibletrial.com/ADHD Rewired. Here is my list of must-listen-to audiobooks updated July 2021. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Attached by Amir Levin and Rachel Heller. Atomic Habits by James Clear. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Crucial Conversations by Carrie Patterson. The Coaching Habit by Michael Stainer. The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. Rest by Alex Sujong Kim Pang. The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Make It Stick. The Science of Successful Learning by Peter Brown. The Productivity Project by Chris Bailey. Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics by Dan Harris. Change Your Questions, Change Your Life by Marilee G. Adams. I always recommend to my coaches and admin that they read that book. The One Thing by Gary Keller, a required reading for all of our coaching group members. Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Baden. The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. And if you're looking for something a little bit more magical, I have fallen in love with the Harry Potter series, and the narrator, Jim Dale, is amazing. And of course, if you haven't yet boarded the Brene Brown bus, all of her stuff is great, starting with Gifts of Imperfection, Daring Greatly, Rising Strong, and The Power of Vulnerability. And if you're an entrepreneur or leader, be sure to check out her book, Dare to Lead. Do you have something that you would like to share? Click on the podcast tab at ADHD Rewired. Click the button to be a guest at the top of the page and schedule a 15-minute interview. This is Eric Tivers, reminding you to keep learning, growing, and connecting. Self-care is not selfish. No matter what you get done or don't get done, you are still enough. And no matter how hard it feels, we can do hard things. And we don't need to do them in the hardest way possible. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week.